Hello, this is Roland. Today I'm going to continue with my series on the Sermon on the Mount. This will be, I think, episode 20. Okay? An in-depth look at the Sermon on the Mount. Well, let me rephrase that. There's so much that I'm scratching the surface. So I'm going to continue scratching the surface, but my scratching of the surface is heuristic. If you receive it with a good spirit, it'll lead to more and more understanding, deeper and insights. Okay, so let's get started. Even as I get insights when I read it. In other words, I could make another series, and it would come out all different. There'd be more and different. Okay, and then another series, and it would be more and different. There would be no end to the depth that could be found in the Sermon on the Mount. But you see, these are basic principles. Okay, you grasp the principle, and then from the principle, then you get more. Okay, so the principle is very important. So let's get started. Matthew chapter 6. Verse 26. Consider the birds of the sky. They do not sow nor reap nor gather into granaries, and your Father of heaven provides for them. Are you not greater than they? For which of you by being worried is able to add 1 cubit to his height? And as to garments, why should you be anxious? Behold the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. But I say unto you, not even Solomon in all his majesty was arrayed like one of these. And if the wheat in the field which is here and in the morning is cast in the oven, God so clothes, is there not much more for you of little faith? You should therefore not be eager or anxious over what to eat, or what you will drink, or what you will wear. Because all of these, even pagans of the world, need for themselves, and your Father of heaven knows that they are needed by you. Instead, seek before everything the kingdom of God and its holiness, and all these shall be added unto you. Do not therefore worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will care for itself. More than enough for this day are the evils thereof. This is a famous passage. Very famous. But how many of us do very well at living up to these principles? Well, maybe you can do better. Maybe you can do a lot better if you have a bit more understanding. So just listen quietly and see if perhaps something I say will help you. You see, what worry is, it's faithless. It's faithless, because worrying, your ego thinks it has to do something. See, our faithless ego always thinks it has to do something, has to make something happen. And so that's part of the temptation of the world, isn't it? We're all subject to temptation, okay, in our fallen state, until you find salvation from it. You see what salvation is? It's much more than just, the word salvation. It means much more. It means salvation from what? See? You need salvation from faithlessness, from worry, from temptation, from wrong beliefs and misbeliefs, and salvation from all manner of things, okay? So it's like a complete package. But it starts, see, with a simple thing. And for a lot of people, it starts with hearing the truth spoken. See, hearing the truth spoken in a way that awakens. So it helps if there's someone like Jesus or like Peter was. It helps if there's someone who speaks in such a way that it tends to wake people up to the truth. It'll make some people very uncomfortable. And And it'll make maybe everyone uncomfortable. But some people don't mind being uncomfortable because they know it's the truth. They don't mind because they love the truth and they want to hear the truth, okay? But other people, that's the last thing they want to hear. So they rush away. See, they can't stand it. They want to cover their ears and run. So it would be nice for someone like that. Which there are a few, not many. But you know, once in a while, someone speaks the truth straight from the heart, without any guile, without any pre-planning, without any ego involvement. They just say something and it strikes home. And that can be the beginning of your awakening. It can be the beginning of salvation for you. Okay? And where does it say, from the mouths of babes? Okay? So it doesn't matter who says it. It's better if it's someone who is enlightened, further along the path, and whose words are loaded up with depth and meaning in such a way that the words have a special quality, an awakening quality. That's nice. But it can be anyone. See, it could be a little child. It can be a stranger. It can be just an offhand remark someone makes. But it awakens you. See? And that's good. It's good to be awake, because most of us are in a kind of a comfort zone, lost in our hypnotic trance and in our daydreams and pipe dreams, and lost in mental fog, okay, in our video games and everything else. It's good to wake up, because that's where you encounter truth. That's where you will, and the truth is from God. See? So I was saying that that a little thing can begin for you, something little, it's like a seed, okay? And if you don't resent the truth when you hear it, if you don't resent it, if you just quietly, wordlessly say yes, it's true, then you receive the truth. Read the parable of the sower of the seeds. It's a beautiful parable. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's quite good. If you receive the word of truth, see, with the right attitude, in other words, not resenting it, and then after you receive it, see, if you just quietly be with it, instead of rolling up your sleeves and trying to, see, some people have a shock of awakening. Someone says something, and then they roll up their sleeves and egotistically try to make themselves better or make themselves good. See, but it's just your ego again, trying to rush in. So, I like this translation here, where it says, what does it say? It says, you should therefore not be eager or anxious over what to eat or what you will drink or what you will wear. Okay? Eager or anxious. Do you remember Adam's sin? It was ambition, wasn't it? Well, there was also doubt. Doubt and ambition. He was ambitious. That was his flaw. The devil found it. The devil said, hey, with knowledge you could be great. You could be like your God. And the devil, or the serpent, found Adam's flaw. See? So that was the number one flaw that he found. Adam was secretly ambitious. So when we egos are, and we, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, we're all descendants of Adam and Eve. So you are born with something of his nature. Okay? You can't help it. It's not your fault, but you have it. What you need to do is to understand it, not condemn it. Not condemn it. Okay, which is your judgment, which is your ego once again trying to rise above the situation, trying to rise above truth itself, trying to rise above the condemnation on you, or the truth even. See, your ego condemns itself. See, so not condemnation on the one hand, nor condoning on the other. Then other people say, well, we're just risen apes. We rose from the slime, and so we're just animals, and so we'll just live like animals. See, eat, drink, and be merry. See, and just indulge ourselves because that's all we are. See, no, that's not right. That's not true either. So without condemnation, without condoning, what is needed is neither of those. What is needed is understanding. You need to understand your nature. Okay, so when you look at the Garden of Eden, you can see in yourself in Adam. Okay, so he was a little bit ambitious. So look at yourself. See, that's the eager part in this beautiful translation. It says, "Do not be eager or anxious." Some of the translations, they leave that. They don't have that word eager. See, this is the Khaboris manuscript. This was written in Aramaic. It's an ancient text, written in the language Jesus spoke, and translated, see, beautifully into English. Okay, so eager. What is being eager but being ambitious? Do you see people when you catch yourself being impatient, being eager, wanting something too much? See, you see the ambition, rushing for something. It's a facet of ambition. Okay, you may not think of eagerness as being ambition, but it's a sort of an ambition. See. Now, like I said, you can't help the nature you were born with. But what you can do is begin to look at it and begin to see something wrong with being too eager. See, being too eager to rush for things. And then the other thing is do not be eager or anxious. So what is anxious? It's worry. And so that's faithless. So you see, Adam was first eager, ambitious. And the temptation merely found that out. So you can't blame the temptation. If Adam wasn't ambitious, he wouldn't have gone for it. Do you remember when you were younger? Maybe when you were a little kid or something. There were temptations all around. You didn't even notice them, right? But then when you got older and then some of your faulty nature started to come to the fore, then all of a sudden, temptation everywhere. Okay, so it was because you had a weakness for it, you see? All right, so you need to understand that. So Adam had this weakness, and then what? Then he doubted what God said. So first he was a little bit ambitious, a little bit eager, excited about the idea of being a God through knowledge, and then he doubted what God said. God had said, if you eat of the tree of knowledge, of the knowledge of good and evil, surely you will die. That's what God said. But Adam doubted it. See? Or at least he didn't have a perfect belief in it. He doubted it, or he kind of pushed it out of his mind. See, he became so anxious for what he thought he could have that he forgot about. See, he forgot about what God had said, maybe. So whether he doubted what God said directly or whether he kind of forgot about it, you see. Now the other thing he didn't have, the third thing, is he didn't have love. He didn't really love God. He didn't really love his wife. If he had really loved God, he never would have reached for that. He would immediately have said, now wait a minute, I'm not sure about this. Now let me ask Father. Let me see what Father has to say. He wouldn't want to disobey God because he would have loved God, see, but he didn't have love. And he didn't love Eve either, because if he did, he would definitely not have reached for that, because he would have somehow been able to see what they were getting into. He wouldn't want to take the chance and endanger her, you see. So he was ambitious, he didn't have faith, and he didn't have love. Doesn't that describe people? So what you need now, you see what you need. The Lord's Prayer, which Christ taught us to pray, actually also recorded in the Sermon on the Mount here in Matthew. See, was lead us not into temptation, is the way we often have it translated. It's translated a little differently in the Khaboris manuscript, but the idea is to, let me see what it says here. Here's what it says. It says, and let us yield not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Okay? So Christ tells us that we should, ask God to help us not yield to temptation. But temptation is going to be there. It's always there. See, even when you start even should you start to wake up, start to meditate with my meditation, begin to have realizations and discoveries and see your own errors and turn from them, and you see you're on the path to salvation. There will be temptation. You'll see him. At each new level of ascent, there will be a temptation there. And so we're to ask God not to yield to it. But you see, if you become perfect, so what I was saying is Adam had imperfect faith. See? And his attitude was ambitious. It wasn't perfect, perfectly obedient, perfectly humble, perfectly wise. See? And he didn't have love. So in order for your protection, remember Paul said to put on the full armor of God. So what you need is perfect obedience, perfect faith, see, perfect love. See, perfect love. And Paul said, perfect love casts out sin, or casts out fear. That's what he said. Perfect love casts out fear. Can you see that fear is faithless? See, now, see what happens to a lot of us is that we're born into a family with imperfect parents, so we mustn't resent them, because all around you are imperfect people. But imperfect parents, they didn't guide us properly sometimes, and maybe they didn't always set a good example. And so these imperfect parents then, see, allowed us to be, or they may have contributed without even realizing, to being traumatized as little children, emotionalized, externalized. So we became emotional and reactive. Okay? And becoming emotional and reactive, then we began to know fear, perhaps, you see. But can you see how a child who's not emotionalized and not reactive doesn't know fear? Maybe a natural hesitancy or a wariness, a caution, yes, but fear, no. But perfect love casts out fear, see, in a lot of different ways. See, if you have love, then you will do the right thing, regardless of the consequences for you, see, because of your love for other people, and love for your Creator, and love for what is right. See, so it just casts out fear, because you're not reacting to temptation, you're not reacting to the circumstance. You observe, you're standing outside of time even, and you're observing the situation, and then you act according to what's given to you. See? You just observe it. You don't have any emotion about it, you just see it, and then you act if something is required of you to do or to say out of what you are given from within, from God's light, see? Well, so perfect love casts out fear. You could also say it casts out anxiety. Because the more you do what is right, and then afterwards, see, first you do what is right. See, first you here's the sequence. First you check with your intuition, with your conscience, which is from God. Check with your intuition. And just observe. You stand there and observe. You don't know what to do. You don't even know if you have to do anything. You just observe. And you check with your intuition. You're close to it. And then if something needs to be said or done, then you do it. Okay? And since you weren't reacting to the temptation, you weren't reacting to the circumstance, your ego was out of the way, you just did whatever was right or what was wise or what you sought to do, if anything was required, without any thought of the consequence. It was just spontaneous. And then after that, well, then you see, sometimes right away, sometimes later, you see the good result of what you did. You're amazed. You're amazed at how things the temptation went away and things resolved themselves somehow. It's amazing. It's just amazing without any effort on your part. So you see all that. So now you have more faith. See, more confidence that the light will always be there when you need it. More faith. See, more trust. and more in understanding to get your ego out of the way, and also understanding you don't have to do, you don't need effort. Sometimes you don't even do anything. You just observe. Things fix themselves. Other times a word or a gesture or some little thing you do, okay? But without effort, just spontaneously. It's like an energy that it's not even your energy. It's not the old emotional energy and angry energy and resentful energy. It just flows forward, it just comes out of, and it's motivated by God's light, okay? It's motivated by God's light, and then good happens, and you see the good. And then that's the evidence then, see? You didn't ask for evidence first, and you didn't plan and scheme, analyze first. You acted in faith, and then afterwards you see the evidence of the good that came to pass without your huffing and puffing and you doing a lot of planning and scheming, and see? All right. So now you see how what you need is perfect love, perfect patience, perfect obedience, perfect faith. So, how are you going to get that? Well, it's a process of perfecting. You don't get it overnight. See? It's developed. With every trial that you go through, every temptation that you delicately go through without without yielding to it. See, that's the other thing. When you yield to temptation, you're yielding to the will of the tempter. But all of these experiences that you go through successfully and hang on to what little faith, whatever faith you have, so you do the best you can with what faith is given to you. See? And what's given to you to do or to say. And then things kind of work out, and you see that, and then you go on, and through all of these experiences, you gain faith, you gain patience. It says in the Bible, was it Peter or James, I think, who said, "Count it a blessing when you fall into divers temptations, because the testing of your faith worketh patience. Let patience have its perfect work." See, so you develop these as time goes by, and your patience becomes refined. It becomes perfected. It's a process of perfecting. See, instead of getting worse, which is what most of us are doing, now it's a process of perfecting. And it begins in the soul. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little talk about the Sermon on the Mount, and I hope to see you when I make my next little talk about the Sermon on the Mount, Lord willing.